to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode 166 of the Art of War Down Under podcast. My name is always Adam Camilleri, and it is an auspicious day. It is a glorious day to be one of the finest of the Emperor. The Emperor's finest, that is. Because we're doing the first half of the Codex Space Marine review that is coming out hot on the heels. Like we're coming out, this should be here the weekend after the pre-release. I think it's a 2-week pre-release, so you should be able to order your good stuff and get it in your hot little hands and your Codex. And you should be able to be listening to this while you do, at least into the second half of this as well. As this is a pretty thick book, and it did take over 2 hours to do the Tyrannid Codex, which has way less data sheets to discuss and things of that note. This will most likely be a 2-week review. To that end, I've reached out to the WMD of the Australian 40K scene. You may know him as Will Milton, but we know him as Big Willy M. Hello, mate. How you doing?
Hey, mate, bloody pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me on. Keen to review this awesome new book that we've got our hands on.
Yeah, so we've got 7 detachments. One, of course, is being the Gladius, which is mostly unchanged. So it actually is entirely unchanged. So we will not be talking about that at all. Refer to my Space Marine Index review if you want to hear about that one. But we have 6 juicy detachments to discuss. Some awesome, some good, some middling, some pretty bonkers in places or head scratching. So we will discuss as many as we can get through in about an hour. And then whatever's left, plus the data sheets, will be coming next week. And I do have a couple of different guests line up, especially to get some hot takes on their view of this book. I think I've got Sam Procopio. I'm going to try and get Mitch Pelham to give us the Blood Angels and Space Wolves insights in the part 2 next week for what they think is going to be the Codex non-compliant outcomes for this. And I think we're both in agreement that the non-Codex compliant chapters are getting a little more out of this.
Yeah, definitely, man. I reckon the non-Codex ones have some a bit of depth and a bit more width compared to the standard Astartes, but we'll dive into it and break that open, I guess.
We will indeed. If you want to hear more, we have a whole second part of this podcast that are being recorded directly after this, in which Big Willy M and myself will be answering all the Patreon questions. If you want to get that second part or be involved and get your questions answered, go over to Patreon, Art of War Down Under, join in, and you'll also be getting the usual good stuff. My Discord, all the other lameness and memery and chicanery that everyone has been enjoying for 3 damn years now. So thank you very much to everyone supporting me thus far. All right, mate. Cracking the shoulders, rolling the neck. Let's get stuck in. First impressions when you went through all these detachments, cover to cover, everything, every new rule that we were getting. And I somewhat am going to hopefully be pulling my weight here as something of a Space Marines expert myself. What did you think?
Look, man, I like this new book. I think it adds a lot of width to the Astartes range. It gives them a lot more capabilities, though it definitely does rein the damage in with the loss of wound rolls on Oath of Moment and some other key data sheets. So I think we'll have some interesting things to come about of like being able to redeploy better and move better and allow yourself to get wider enhancements, but the actual one-hit focus damage is significantly reduced.
And funnily enough, there's a lot of parallels that I can already make and things that I can already see AOWdu doing, even though we've only seen 2 codexes. So the NIDS Codex came out and didn't make a phenomenal splash. There wasn't any obvious build that was just so fundamentally better than everything else, like we saw when we saw the Gladius Task Force come out and we went straight to Desolators. There hasn't been anything that has come out of that book that was just like, oh my God, every unit can just has to have 3 by whatever units of this min-maxed into their armies. We haven't seen that out of NIDS, maybe Neurolictus, but that's more of just a value proposition rather than a bully unit or something that's going to dominate the game. And I don't know if we're going to see any of that out of this one either. I agree with you entirely. Like the Tyrannid Codex, we're seeing a diversification of what you can play, but the overall power of the faction, I don't think has increased, if at all. In fact, by the time we come to the end of this and you and I have discussed what we've done for this week, I would not be surprised if I'm saying that overall, due to the change of armor of Oath of Moment, the army has stayed the same or got slightly worse in power. But the amount of units and the viability of things in your army has gone up 3-fold, 5-fold. Would that be safe to say?
Totally agree, man. Look, I think it's completely safe to say, and I think it's exciting because it means for the longer term, a 10th edition Codex releases, if they stay along that line, hopefully we don't get crazy power creep like we did in previous editions.
And also, you don't have a dominant archetype out of the book that floods and just makes every other cool thing in your codex irrelevant. I'm thinking of the Sisters Codex of Ninth Edition. You had some really cool, awesome stuff in that book. None of it got used because Bloody Rose was 3 times better than everything else. That's not what I want for not a 10th edition. And I think so far that's kind of what we're seeing. Like, I mean, with analyzing the Tyranids so far, the Synaptic Nexus seems to be what people agreed is the better one, but I still see people playing 3 or sometimes, well, usually 2 or 3 different ones: the Vanguard, the Nexus, and the Invasion Fleet, the original. And I would really expect to see the same out of this.
Yeah, look, mate, I reckon we'll see those books develop a meta within itself of what's best. I imagine, looking at this briefly, this book, and similar to that book, there's probably half the detachments are significantly, if not majorly, better than the other half. And then between them, the power levels are relative to each other. And like, you can kind of play any of them. There will be some that are slightly better based on your meta, based on your tables you're playing in what country, and if you're playing teams or if you're playing singles. But yeah, I think it's cool to see, and hopefully at least a long-term diversity and list design and player factions.
Exactly right. For those of you who have been listening with some consternation about the decline in audio quality, I will let you know that I've received my brand new super shiny and quite expensive microphone. I'm hoping the audio issues will be gone thereafter. So please leave some comments and let me know if things are better at all. If they're not, then I have other things I need to look into. And if they are better, cool, thumbs up. And thanks for your time. Thanks for sticking around and continuing to listen. We'll be starting our review with the Army Rules. Oath of Moment has changed. It reads as thus: if your army faction is Adeptus Astartes at the start of your command phase, select 1 unit from your opponent's army as you would right now. To the start of your next command phase, the enemy unit is your Oath of Moment target. Each model has ability makes it that attacks at a target with your Oath of Moment. You can re-roll the hit roll. It's been half of its goodness have been removed, and I got to say, the better half has been removed.
Definitely the better half. This codex, while it does have a lot of twin link there, man, the reroll, the wound roll on a lot of weapons is super important to get the melee damage in, to get that range damage in. And if you need to kill something big, like the codex actually struggles to get a lot of strength 10 or higher. So it's kind of, we'll have to see what people come up with to have options to mitigate that. I know that there's a few things there, but and like things like aggressor still work, right? Because they got twin link.
But
yeah, like it is definitely a bit of a hit here, and there is reroll access in a few places, but it means that some characters like the Salamanders, like Vulcan, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but both of them give wound rerolls in specific situations. They go up in value. It provides a bit more value to base abilities that give wound rerolls that probably weren't as important before.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, like you said. Also, I would say that this has made lethal hits one of the premium buffs we can get now. Because we have the rerolls to hit, getting lethal hits and getting lethal hits off on a 5 or better has just made that the value of that gone through the roof. In addition, I'd say the anti-keyword has also gone through the roof as well, because you don't have any pluses to wound are very rare as well. And rerolls to wound are extremely hard to come by. In fact, one data sheet probably next week we're going to talk about that has changed dramatically is the lieutenant with combi weapon. We'll talk about him more then, but you might just have to take him because he gives you a reroll to wound. It might just be too good to leave at home. But and like we said at the start, this might be enough to just keep Space Marines around the same level that they are now power-wise. The fact that they've essentially lost, I think about a third of my output every turn was just the rerolls to wound from Oath of Moment. I didn't really need to think about whether I was going to kill a thing if I had Oath of Moment on it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I'd have to agree. Like I've been playing a lot of melee Marines post W2C, and I can say that using chainswords with even if you're winning on 6s or on 5s, the Lancers and Gladius and the extra AP, the rerolls to wound just punch up, and not having that anymore means that those type of units don't have that board presence and board control for threat projection into things like big Nid monsters, which may be a bit of a struggle for this book now. But it's still fine. Like there's ways to get around it, and I think it's just going to lead to people having to think smarter rather than just going, "I'm going to focus this target down."
Yeah,
currently as it currently is.
Here's the one thing every turn I get to kill with my nonsense.
Yeah. Do you have to say though, lieutenant stonks are way up because they give lethal hits. So yeah, maybe those are Primaris lieutenants that we think we have like 11 of them now might be useful.
That's what it's all part of the plan, guys.
It's conspiracy.
All right. The first of the brand new detachments is the Anvil Siege Force. Give us the detachment rule there, mate.
Shield of the Imperium. Range weapons equipped by Adeptus Astartes models from your army have the heavy ability. That's pretty cool. If a weapon already had the heavy ability, each time it makes an attack with this weapon, if it remains stationary, add 1 to the wound roll.
Not bad. Like, I mean, you think about it though, with the way the game is played, it can get a little awkward to try and figure this out. But I mean, we don't have any artillery outside Desolators that already have a heavy, do we?
I don't know if whirlwinds have heavy. I have to double check that. But
I don't believe they do.
Yeah, look, it's Desolators, but Desolators are down in the bin a little bit, which is probably a good thing for the overall game.
Yes, it is.
But look, the thing is, and this is the Imperial Fist style army. There's a lot of Gravis heavy tech stuff there, so it's interesting to see where this may apply because a lot of those Gravis models have heavy weapons. But I'm sure we'll get into that with the stratagems and whatnot.
Well, so the best thing I can think about using with this is things arriving from deep strike or strategic reserve in your opponent's turn and then standing still in your turn. That's already in my head the best way to utilize this. Without, I mean, we know that you walk into the open and you just like stand there like a mime, you're going to get blown up immediately, even in this less lethal edition of the game. So it's going to be interesting to see if anybody can figure out how to get around this enough to make it viable. Because is there anything you can think of in the game that allows you to count as having remained stationary?
I believe there was something in this actual suite of stuff in here. I'm just trying to double check if there was, but we'll get into it. But I don't think in general there is over in the Arching game. Like it kind of leans away how to play 40k, sadly, as a detachment rule, because you need the movement, right? You got to move onto objectives, you got to move to do actions, you got to move to have threat. And staying still means if you've moved out into the open early, your opponent generally gets to shoot you first, and you initiate that trade on the back foot then. But, there might be a way around this. Like, the whirlwinds look all right for this stuff that's indirect. Anything with quite long range, like looking at las cannons and stuff. But we'll have to see, man. Like, I think this is one of the base attachment rules that are cool, but it's going to require a little bit of finesse to get it rolling.
All right, just with all other detachments we have seen so far in the game, everyone in here comes with a suite of 4 enhancements and 6 stratagems. One of the stratagems in every single one of these detachments is Armor of Contempt. We're gonna read it out once when we get to it, just so people who may not have, may just be joining us when the Codex is coming out, knows what it is, and then we will not be mentioning it again. But the first of the enhancements is Indomitable Fury. It is for Gravis models only. The first time the bearer is destroyed, roll 1d6 at the end of the phase. On a 2+, set the bearer back up on the table as close as possible to where it was destroyed and not within engagement range of any enemy units with its full wounds remaining. We are starting to see these type of effects become very valuable, mate. How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, look, I really love these effects. Like, we've seen it to great effect with the Phoenix Gem in Eldar up until, recently.
Yep.
People are still toking it. Standing back up is always useful because if you kill someone shooting, they get back up, and you have to charge them. So you have to commit a second unit. If you kill them in melee, they get to stand back up. It means you probably get an extra point of board control or objective control if you haven't got something that's holding that objective there already. However, I will say it is Gravis only, and the Gravis Captain's pretty tough, which is actually solid, but the problem here is Marine units, generally you want your characters attached to them. You don't want them solo. And you could run a solo Gravis Captain, but it just leads to some interesting play. I think it's cool and it's useful, but we'll have to see how the other enhancements play and if it's better than the others.
Yep, it'll run you 20 points for the privilege. If this was not Gravis, I would say this is fantastic. The fact that it's Gravis, I'm scratching my head trying to figure out how it's going to work. I would find the cheapest thing I can strap a jump pack to or make infiltrate, slap it in the middle of the board for a cleanse or in my opponent's deployment zone for scanners, teleport homers, let it die, get it back up, get some more points. What's the next one?
Fleet Commander. It's a captain model only.
My favorite. We're going to draw a line, boys. We're going to draw a line. Let's go.
So for those who remember Orbital Bombardment, I believe it's pretty similar to that, but it's a little bit different. So once per battle, at the start of the shooting phase, you can select 1 point on the battlefield and place a marker on that point. At the start of your next shooting phase, place another marker on the battlefield within 12 of the center of the first marker. Then draw a straight line between the center of each of those markers and roll 1d6 for each unit the line passes over. On a 3+, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds and both markers are then removed. Yeah, interesting, right? So... This is so we had the line guns from 9th edition with Morty's lantern and you had conversion beamers and whatnot, and they were interesting, but this is probably a slightly worse version because yes, you get some more agency in the ability to pick a point and then another point within 12, but it's on a D6 on a 3+, and it's only D3 mortals, so it's okay, but realistically, what are you hitting that is gonna do D3 mortals on 3+. That's actually that good. Really, it's very thematic. I like that for the way of this theme of this siege force. But I don't know, man. What do you think?
I think it is trash on every level, and have yet to make one of these that's worth taking. And I still love that they persist. I adore their persistence.
Me too.
They all suck. If you draw a line or place a marker and then have to wait a turn for it to do anything, the ability sucks. I'm sorry. It fundamentally, the only one that I thought was okay was the Death Strike last edition, which was an absolute meme. But the fact is, you could choose not to fire the missile and remove the token again. So you could kind of use it to harass and corral people away from points on the table, and that has a lot of psychological value. This just it sucks so bad. I love it. The fact that it's not even automatic. The fact that it's not guaranteed. Yeah. So it's what is it? 15 points. Yeah, 15 points, and it's not guaranteed mortal wounds. It's still a 2/3 chance.
Look, I'm just gonna stand there and tank this. Unless it's like I've got one model and you're trying to kill that. That's about the only time it might be useful. But again, it's only on 3+. So you know.
Correct. If you were playing an entire artillery army, like you were willing to spend 600 points on 3x5 desolators, 3 whirlwinds, no Thunderfire cannons anymore. They don't exist. So that's actually all of it. That's all of the artillery you can possibly take. Yeah, cool. Add this in. It's just another thing you can do. To somebody who you can't see. So I guess adding to that is not a bad idea. Stoic Defender is up next. Adeptus Astartes model only. While the bearer is leading unit, models in the unit have a 6-up feel no pain while they're within range of an objective marker you control. And while that unit is battle shocked, halve the OC of models in the unit instead of changing it to 0. So I wish it said half rounding up.
Yeah.
If I'm OC1, am I OC 0.5?
I would have to check. I don't know how the modifiers work for this because if it's characteristic, right, it would follow the rules of you would round, but I'm not 100%.
I'm assuming you would stay at OC1. If you're OC1 and you're battle shocked, you stay at OC1.
Yeah.
It would be anything else is stupid.
The real thing here, realistically, is the 6-up feel no pain. On a Gravis unit, or something, which is this is leaning this way, with your Gravis captain and whatnot. Like this is not bad. I don't think anything can lead Centurions. It'd be awesome on Centurions. But we've had this on previous editions, like Iron Hands had a 6-up feel no pain army wide, and this on one unit is definitely always helpful to just get that extra bit of durability, especially on 2-wound and 3-wound models. We occasionally take that extra bit of multi damage out and take one less save. But yeah, like it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. So
yeah, I think it's fine. It also is. Don't know how many points. Apologies. It is 15 points. So it's not going to break the bank.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Yep. Give us the last one.
Architect of War, Adeptus Astartes model only, which is nice, so it can be anything. While the bearer's leading unit, ranged weapons equipped by this model in the models in this unit have ignores cover. There's the ignores cover you were asking about earlier, mate. Now that is cool.
That is very, very good.
How much points is that one, mate?
That one is the expensive one at 25, which is totally fair. It's easily the best one.
It's valid. Like for things that you will be shooting with to lead that ignores cover, you'll be looking at like aggressors as the primary one. Sadly, a lot of the torrent weapons already ignore cover, right? Because they have torrent. So you don't really need it on that. But like a lot of the bolter stuff, maybe some Stern Guard. Those Stern Guard have gone down in value slightly now. Look, there's a lot of shooting units in this Marine army that are okay on foot, but a lot of the shooting actually is coming from the vehicles at the moment. So it's got options. I like it. It's a good buff. So you should take it if you're taking this, and especially if you're standing still.
Yep, I totally agree. I mean, I'm envisioning because you can still take 10-mans for Gravis intercessors. Yeah.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, chunky boy intercessors. So you take 10 of those. You give them 6-up for no pain on an objective. You give them ignores cover. And then they stand still, get heavy, and +1 to wound, and then they can kind of kill most things pretty well. That's what this is telling me I want to do. Is that good? No. We'll wait to see the points. I don't think it's amazing. All right, Armor Contempt. I'm just going to read this one now. Get it out of the way. 1 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that was selected as a target of one or more of those units' attacks. To the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, worsen the AP characteristic of that attack by 1. And that is in every single one of these detachments. So there's only really going to be 5 that are going to be reading for every single one going forward. Give us the next one, mate. Rigid Discipline.
Rigid Discipline. So it's 1 CP, and it activates at the end of the fight phase. And you target 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that is within engagement range of 1 or more units. You can immediately fall back 6 inches, or up to 6 inches, and when making that move, you must end that move wholly within your deployment zone or within range and objective marker. That is a bloody awesome strat, because anything that gets movement in your opponent's turn that then allows you to, I don't know, fall back and shoot, essentially, or just gets to flank to a maneuver or flank to an objective is amazing. That's very cool.
I think this is a phenomenal stratagem. So the first thing I thought of was that, okay, someone's walking at you with 20 Necron Warriors, and you can't really stop them. Like, if you stand on the objective, they just walk on the objective and take it off you. You use your unit to wall them off from getting onto it, and then at the end of the fight phase, you walk back onto it, and then start your command phase. I don't know, score some points, or they don't score points in their command phase. There's a lot of cool jank ability from this. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, using the ability to essentially absorb as charge on a screen, and if the screen lives, and instead of trying to get a desperate breakout, if they try and block it and whatnot, you can just fall it back and get it away. Like that's immediately, that's amazing. I reckon that's awesome.
Yeah. I reckon it's baller. All right, next one is not 1 step backwards. Lol, that the previous one was literally all about stepping backwards. This next one is not 1 step backwards. 1 CP in your command phase. 1 infantry unit from your army within range of an objective marker. Until the end of the turn, double the OC characteristic of models in your unit, but it must remain stationary this turn. So it must get value from your Shield of the Imperium ability, is what you've told me. 1 CP, and you must use the Shield of the Imperium ability. It must become heavy. But the command phase means you can just be like, well, do it before you score your primary, and you score more primary. This is a great strat.
Yeah, look, I think it's really cool. I guess the question here is must mean you cannot move at all, or does it mean if you... Like, you can move, but then you lose the OC control? I believe it'd be the first option.
I believe it's the first option.
Yeah. So you're kind of locked in position, but it's not too bad, especially if you're trying to like block off an objective where you are fighting over the center and you're both OC heavy. And if you've got an ancient in your squad, and then you get to say you're taking heavy intercessors or something along the troop slot or previous troop slot, you get battle line now. You get OC3, get OC up again. Like, that's pretty good. That's not too bad.
Well, dude, the fact is it's not +1, it's double. So, like, in Intercessor from OC2 to OC4, it is wild. It is really quite wild that it's 1 CP to double. I rate that
OC5 intercessors, if you have an ancient in there, that's pretty wild.
Dude, yeah. Terminators with an ancient. Yeah, OC4. Yeah, pretty good. All right, next one's yours.
No threat too great. Okay, no threat too great. Awesome. So it's 2 CP, so it's a bit on the expensive side. I think it's there is another 2 CP, so it's one of the 2 CP strats in this attachment. In your shooting phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot yet. Until the end of the phase, each time the model and unit makes a range attack against a monster or vehicle unit, you can reroll the wound roll. Now, we've already had this in Oaths, but you get to pick where this goes. So it's pretty good, but it's only a monster and vehicle. But there's a lot of monsters and vehicles around at the moment, so it's not a bad strat.
In all honesty, we've never really struggled in the infantry killing department in this book. Even without Oath, I was rarely oathing infantry targets, unless it was just to make sure it died to Desolators or Thunderflyers or whatever. But yeah, I think this is unfortunately a high value. It's funny that we're paying 2 CP for something we just used to have. It is also good to note when the battle tactic stratagems rock up, and this is one of that. So you can make this free and or double it up.
Yeah, you can make it free and double it up, which is actually really good, right? So it means that you're leaning in towards having your captains and stuff. Now, what can you again? This is very useful for aggressors. They already have twin link though, so you're really using it for the top bombs. I'm trying to think about what that's actually useful for. From shooting.
Eradicators don't use it.
Eradicators get re-rolls. I'm trying to think about what else is there. Maybe Devastators and Desolators. I know Desolators are kind of on the down, but those heavy units that want to stand still, it's still useful.
Assault. No, it's just Dev Centurions. 5 Dev Cents just lolling on people. That would be pretty funny.
Yeah, that would be. Definitely.
If only. Next up is Battle Drill Recall. This is 1 CP. It happens in your shooting phase. 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. To the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have sustained its 1 ability. If you remain stationary, you crit on 5s. with those units. So if you remain stationary, you are heavy or heavy and +1 to wound. You now have a sustained hits 1s that are happening on 5s. And then, I mean, if you had a apothecary in your unit, sorry, a lieutenant or apothecary biologist, you are, got lethal hits as well. Adding at the moment, this is another combo piece that could end up being pretty significant.
This is awesome, man. I like it. The caveat of having to remain stationary again is leaning into the Anvil Siege Force, but I don't personally like that remaining stationary component. But anything that crits on 5s on hits, especially with Oath still being full hit rerolls and a number of other units having full hit rolls when they're at full strength, or enemy units are at full strength or on objectives and whatnot, this is still good. But it's essentially you got to post up and try and get to a point where your opponent kind of has to come out into the open. I will say though, the sustained hits 1 for 1 CP, still very good. Like I would still use that quite often, right? Like even if you're moving and like whatnot, like again, aggressors, anything with lots of bolts, like bolters they're pushing out, anything with a weight of fire with sustained hits 1 is awesome.
Totally agree. All right, what's the last one?
Hail of Vengeance. Now that is a very cool name. This is also 2 CP and it's a strategic ploy stratagem. When your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy has resolved attacks, one Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that has 1 or more models destroyed as a result of the unit attacking, you can shoot it as if it was your shooting phase, but you must target that enemy unit when doing so, and you can only do so if that enemy unit is an eligible target. 2 CP, shoot back. That's kind of cool. That's very cool, and it fits the I'm going to go out there and get hit, and if you don't get hit too hard, you get to punish them because you're standing still and punish that unit that shot you. That's actually really cool. So
does you not moving in there, do you get heavy, essentially, when you shoot back, is what I'm trying to figure out?
I believe so, because I'll just double-check the heavy keyword, but I believe you would, because it is...
Is it the movement phase or your movement phase? If it's your movement phase, you don't. If it's the previous movement phase or the movement phase, I think you do.
Just double-checking. Remain stationary this turn. So
yes, you good? You would?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's
good. So you're better at shooting in their turn. Anyway, as for the entire package that the Anvil Siege Force brings to you, unfortunately, like we said, the buffs that it gives you are very good. They're very good strats and very good buffs. They're all predicated on doing something that you do not want to do in the game at the moment, which is be still, be targetable. Like you have to. So okay, just thinking about it fundamentally, to shoot something in the game at the moment, we're talking at a competitive level on the very dense tables that we have to play with on this competitive game. Your opponent has to have walked out to a unit that was already for you there. You have to have survived their turn, because usually when you walk out onto an objective, you can't see anything on your most, or if you can see something, it's negligible 5 scouts, something that doesn't care, or it's got lone up or stealth, and it's some nonsense piece that you're trading up into or down into, or it's negligible either way. And then you have to stand there, survive through their turn, and shoot back at something meaningful. The amount of times that is going to happen, very low.
Yeah. Look, unless it's like, I don't know, Botan are up on the rise, you could see them drop out some Thunderkin, but they're going to wipe you. Like, the Marines aren't super tough. Correct. They're cool, they're tough, but you have to pop, you have to have that 6-0 Feeling the Pain, you have to have AOC, and maybe even like a Libby in the squad to give you the 4-up invuln. Like, you're still Marine bodies, you're still the jack of all trades standard, and unless you have something incredibly tough, like leading into that Gravis thing and trying to get that going, just don't know if it's enough to survive to then have anything to shoot back and push on from that, but we'll see.
I really wish that there was a strat in here or an enhancement that lets you counters remaining stationary. 1 CP to counters remaining stationary, or if you move at half your movement, you count as having remained stationary or something like that, just to give you a little bit to keep you engaged and to keep these detachment rules actually relevant. Because as this right now, I'm looking at this as if, are these strats and enhancement good enough when I'm not getting the detachment rule, when I'm not getting heavy and +1 to wound? Because the amount of times that's going to happen is nowhere near the amount of times I'm going to be slapping down CPs from here and trying to get value from the things I can.
Yeah, I agree, man. I would love that. If you actually, honestly, if you had a strat that lets you stand still, and I genuinely thought they may have, that would have been amazing. Like the amount of ability to have, like they would have made this detachment actually very good, and it wouldn't have been overpowered. It just would have been a very viable option at that point.
All right. Next up is the Ironstorm Spearhead, which is of course, the Iron Hands-esque detachment. The Armored Wrath's detachment rule reads as thus: once per phase for each unit in your army, you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, or 1 damage roll made for a model in that unit. And it pretty much, it's going to be that wound roll now because we don't have it anywhere else anymore.
I would say it's a bit of a discount Eldar detachment rule, but it is still very, very good. And man, the wound roll, yes, I totally agree, especially for those one-shot weapons, the two-shot weapons on also Executioners or Gladiator. But the damage as well, there's a lot of D6 plus X damage at the moment. And if you get a wound and it goes through and you've rolled a 1, like sometimes people spend CP on that. You don't have to do that. That's actually pretty good. So
I actually rate it. Yeah, I think it's a good detachment rule. What's the first of the enhancements?
Yeah, enhancements. So we have Target Augury Web, which is an aura. It goes on a Tech Marine only model, which I believe a few of these are like that. And while a friendly Adeptus Astartes vehicle is within 6 inches of the bearer, the weapons on that vehicle have the lethal hits ability. Now that is quite cool. That is a very solid buff to already good army and already good chassis.
How many points would you pay for such a thing, sir?
Or like 20, maybe? How much is it?
40.
Oh, okay. That's not cheap.
No, it's because GW is cleverly pricing auras at a huge premium. Anything that's an aura with a relevant buff, it just gets a premium now, just almost a double. Because the fact is, how many vehicles could you have? Usually, something like this would be joining a unit and only giving it to a squad. This could have 3 ballistas and 3 redemptor dreads in range of it. Technically,
to be fair, like in my thinking, I was still thinking of 9th edition, like where you pick one within 6. Everything within 6 at 40 points is actually quite valid. To be fair, like that is actually a solid buff. Like Gladiator Reapers with Twin Link naturally with like all those shots and lethal, they actually start bringing down stuff pretty heavily with it, especially on an oath target. Like that's pretty solid. So it's respectable. Very good enhancement.
All right, next one is the flesh is weak. The bearer has a feel no pain 4+ ability, so you just get one heckin' chonker.
It's not bad.
In there. It's not bad either. Which one was that? Flesh is weak is 15 points.
Again, Gravis Captain isn't bad for this because he has damage reduction. So yeah, pretty good there.
Next up,
Adeptus. Adept of the Omnissiah. Omnissiah, is that right? Yeah. Tech Marine model only. So another one, Tech Marine. Once per battle round, when a saving throw is failed for a friendly Adeptus Astartes vehicle within 6 of the bearer, you can change the damage characteristics of that to 0. That is very, very good because it is not before the save. You know how much they've done, and if you're getting hit by a D6 weapon and they roll a 1, you're like, I'll let it go through. Then they roll a 6, you're like, nah, mate, that's 0. Say goodbye to that. That is very solid.
I think it's extremely good. I think this, considering the previous, the target augury is legitimately one of the first true build around enhancements that I've seen, apart from Bolter Discipline for Marines. I think this is phenomenally good. This is
very good. How many points is this, mate?
Adept of the Omnissiah. Sorry, I've got a big list of them, and they're not in order. 25 points. That's
pretty good. That's very good. That's very good.
Yeah,
I'd pay 25 points for a CP reroll or a CP 0 on a save a turn, essentially. So
yeah, correct. Because that's exactly right. Perfect way of describing what it is. Master of Machine War aura. It's an aura. While a friendly vehicle is in 6 of the bearer, it is eligible to shoot even if it fell back or advanced. So that means it had to have advanced into the aura to be able to shoot. So that makes it a bit weird, or it had to fall back into the aura to shoot. You can't be in the aura and then leave the aura and think you're going to shoot.
Yeah, you'd have to, like, you could go with it, right? Like the character could be
correct.
Moving up in a castle. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This is not what this is leaning towards at all, right, guys?
No.
Yeah, but stacking. It's another aura ability. And man, like having fallback and shoot and advance and shoot gives you that mobility that we were talking about. That is incredibly important for playing high level 40k.
Yeah, agreed. 20 points as well. So this actually is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, that's good. Very good.
3 of these enhancements I think are very takeable. I mean, Target Augury Web is if you have built your list and I think you're either starting the list with this in mind or you're seeing if you got 60 left at the end. There's no real maybes about it. It's either in there or it probably isn't for the first one. But then, like the last 2, they're making a save to a 0, so making a damage, zeroing a damage, and then the fallback are both very takeable.
Look, man, I honestly think it's you take 3 always. You take Adept, you take Master of the Machine War, and you take Target Augury Web because they just synergize so well together, especially with Armored Wrath. You get to create this amazing castle of vehicles with Tech Marines supporting it.
So all the Iron Hands-esque lists out there starting at 1915 because you put an 85 into enhancements.
Oh no, the Iron Hands dread lists are back again.
Dude, legitimately, I don't think I think triple Redemptor, triple Ballistus could be a list.
I totally agree.
Dude, the freaking Ballistus loves this detachment rule. Having so few high quality shots, one reroll to hit to wound or damage, beautiful.
Very good.
Right. First of the strats, Unbowed Conviction, 1 CP, happens in your command phase. Command phase. Not yours, the. 1 unit from your army that's below starting strength. To the end of the turn, you can ignore any or all modifiers to its characteristics and or any roll tests are made for it, including modifiers to saving throws. What is this? How does this actually translate on the battlefield, mate? Give people the TLDR.
So, say you're taking vehicles, like this is leading to, below starting strength is you take 1 wound. And I believe, I could be wrong here, but does OC count as a modifier for when you take battle shock? Because if I got to double check this. I only just thought about this a second. But if your opponent walks onto objective and they shock, you're battle shocked, I'm going to shock 1 model on there to stop you from scoring it. Do you get to spend this strat to get that back? I don't know. I got to double check.
Dude, possibly.
Yeah, but like the big thing here is when vehicles and big things and whatnot get under half strength, you get the -1 to hit, right? And this immediately, it's a third. Apologies. So they get to ignore that modifier if you're looking at anything that has any damage characteristics, depending on where you're playing, like your TO rules on that. Like I know WTC ruled that it did ignore damage reduction. UKTC, I believe, is against that, so it depends on what you're doing. But this is very good because it ignores anything. It's -1 to wound, -1 to hit. Any movement modifiers, like a Night Spinner, which is amazing for this meta. This is a very good strat, man. Granted, you have to take damage, though, but still okay.
That's the only issue. If it was just like 1 CP and you could just do this regardless, it would be super, super good. As it is, the TNC on it is actually kind of awkward.
Yeah. And the next one, command phase too, as well.
It is either. I like that a lot. Armor Contempt is the next one. So moving over it, the next one is Mercy is Weak. Give us a lowdown.
Mercy is weakness, so it's 1 CP. It is another battle tactics. The previous one as well was so when your shooting phase or the fight phase, so both phases are very good. 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight this phase until the end of the phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets a unit below starting strength, that attack has sustained hits 1 ability, and when making such an attack, if that model is a vehicle, successful unmodified hit rolls of 5 are counted as criticals. Now that is amazing.
Ooh, that is quite good. I mean, obviously you go straight. Yeah, you go straight to like Gladiator Reaper, but who already has this against infantry, so they don't stack. Well, that has sustained 2 actually, but something like a Repulsor that it's just the DACA brick. It's just a brick of DACA. This starts to get really, really saucy.
This also is another way to get that semi-Gladius aggressor brick, right? Because it gives you sustained. You get the lethal, I guess you have a lieutenant attached, and you got oaths for the reroll, and they just have to be below starting strength. Because if it's an enemy unit, they have to lose 1 model. If it's a vehicle, you get the crits on 5s, and you start punching out. It's actually maybe even be better. Probably not because of the way the characters work, but it allows you to apply this in multiple different places along the battlefield, and at 2 different units in the same turn if you have a captain in there, which is awesome.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think this is a pretty good strat. Once again, could just be sustained 1 for 1 CP, and that we already described that as a decent going rate for such a buff. Vengeful Animus is up next, 1 CP. Any phase just after an Adeptus Astartes vehicle modifying your army with the deadly demise ability is destroyed. Yes, I know where this is going. You can use this stratagem even though it is just destroyed, and you can't usually use stuff on stuff that's dead, and you don't roll to see whether it explodes. It does the explodes and deadly demises these things regardless. So 1 CP auto explode is back, baby.
It is very good to have that, because sometimes you get into combat and you got your Redemptor, you got something on your objective that just dies, and the unit that comes in and gets on the point and they're very weak. They may be weak from combat back or whatnot, and then you die. And you blow up and you wipe them off the point, or you kill something that has to take battle shock in their turn, and they might lose the OC. Like, very handy little in your back pocket stratagem to have, and always useful.
At some point, someone, maybe me, is going to be going through every single vehicle data sheet on this to find the cheapest thing that explodes the mostest. To see, is there any? We'll see if there's anything that explodes for D6 in the new book that is cheap enough to warrant suicidal actions, so to speak. And that one is an epic deed, so not a battle tactic. It's weird, I keep thinking it's the colors. It's the kind of dark green is the battle tactics.
It should be the colors. That would be awesome.
It should be the colors of the bands. That would make a lot of sense. Anyway, give us the next one.
The next one is Ancient Fury. Very cool name. Also an epic deed stratagem. It is 1 CP. In your command phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes Walker model. Until the end of your next command phase, improve your model's toughness, save, leadership, objective control by 1, and each time that model makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. This is bloody awesome. Your Adeptus are looking pretty good in this. Ballistus looking pretty good in this. Even Brutalis with this is very solid going into that. And this just takes it up another kick. And we've had this stratagem in Knights with the armages. I like using it. I know it's once per game, but you can use the big ones, the small ones. Dude, most of those dreads are on a 2+ save. This takes them to a 1-up technically.
Correct.
And you can AOC as well. And you get cover.
The toughness, increase in toughness, man. It is so good. You can just be playing in some armies where that's just a breakpoint, where you're just like, 3s to 4s. So it's essentially, it could just be -1 to wound.
-1 to wound, +1 save. If you're versing what do you call it? The fire prisms, for example, Eldar is still very prevalent.
Yep.
The AP4, and you get cover, so you're already down to AP3, down to 2-up, and then it's essentially done to AP1. Like if you use AOC, that's pretty wild. And +1 to hit never hurts, right? It's always good.
Well, essentially, because you're playing this, you're going to have a techie at least for the enhancements. So 1 techie is giving out BS plus BS to 1 guy, and 1 CPing, stratting it onto another one, and you can just have a lot of extra goodness. And we're hitting on 2s with 1 reroll to hit just means you most likely have that reroll for the wound roll, for the damage roll, for the other things. It's I think that is a phenomenal stratagem. And praise be, it's not a battle tactic, because you would be building that in.
You would be 100%.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
All right. Power of the Machine Spirit is the last one. It is an epic deed. It's in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has resolved his attacks. 1 Adeptus Astartes vehicle unit from your army that was reduced to below half strength as a result of its attacks. You can shoot as if your shooting phase, but must target the enemy unit. So it's shoot back again. It's 1 CP shoot back with the term and condition that you must be below half strength and not dead. So I'm not sure about this one. It's probably really good.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's probably
good.
really good.
The problem you have here is a lot of people aren't going to try and undercommit resources to something. So the ballpark between you not living and living depends on the allocation of your opponent primarily, rather than you. So it's good. It's good to have, especially when you need it. But when becoming below half strength is difficult, because if someone's going to drop, again, like fire prisms on you, like you get 2 shots, there's 6 damage. Unless you're like a Redemptor, like you're going to, if you fail both, you're dead type of thing. Like a lot of these things are 2 wounds, and like you don't have feel no pains on a lot of this stuff. So it doesn't have that ability to try to absorb that. So it's good. It'll probably come up more where you're versing like D6 damage weapons that are trying to hunt mech. Still very good though. I like it. Very thematic.
I wish it was just shoot on death. It was just 1 CP shoot on death, because probably you have to be below half but above dead. It's just not that often.
To be honest, man, that actually might be for 1 CP shoot on death is might be a little bit too good, but it fits the detachment, and this detachment is a awesome package, I reckon, man. What do you think?
I think it is really good, especially with the points reductions that we got on every single chunky dread chassis. So the Ballistus, the Redemptor, the Brutalis, all being priced to be takeable. The Brutalis possibly better in some other detachments, and Phantom Charge is pretty freaking good there, but I could really see triple Ballistus, triple Redemptor being used in this combination, and that I think is a strong list at the moment. This is very powerful. When you add up everything that you get with this, I think this is probably one of the middling detachments, because it's so pushing such a hard skew, and a skew that can be, well, my biggest issue with all the new dreads is the sheer amount of board they require to be functional. They're so freaking big. They're so unwieldy, and they're not that quick.
This also is leaning into a shooting army, right? Which is good. And shooting armies, this is a shooting edition, everyone. Like, I hope you're all aware of that. And melee has on the downfall. But it does mean on the new base sizes, especially on the heavier terrain boards, this could have a
Yeah.
few problems there. But it has a staying power because it's vehicles. And
Yeah.
the other thing is the advance and shoot and the fallback and shoot is still very solid. So like it has a lot of tools in its kit. And I like it, man. I think it's awesome. It might not be the best, but it's still very solid. And it brings back the Dread Castle, and everybody loves playing Dreads, like with them especially. So look, even like a Reaper Castle, like a Gladiator Castle,
Gladiator Castle
is something that we get to see here potentially.
Yeah, dude, triple Redemptor, triple Gladiator would be pretty good. Dude, triple Repulsor Executioner could even be a thing. Like maybe that's the thing that unlocks a little bit more of this army when you're toting around a couple little OC bombs to go and flip objectives for you.
That's it.
Anyway. All right, on to the next one, which is the Firestorm Assault Force. And this out of the gates looks like the one that can emulate the things we've been doing so far for Space Marines the most. And that's the thing that we also like as a community and as a player base, we're always attracted. Like I've been playing this awesome 2,000 point army. What's the thing that I can play with the closest to what I've been playing? And this is it, and it looks real good. And of course, this is the Salamanders one. For those curious, the Firestorm one, of course it is. The detachment rule is close range eradication. Range weapons equipped by Adeptus Astartes models from your army have the assault ability, and each time an attack made with such a weapon targets a unit within 12, add 1 to the strength of that attack. Real good.
Pretty cool.
How much better is assault than heavy? Just quickly.
I wonder. Now, what are those things that we need to do around the board? And that's move. And what does assault allow you to do? Advance and shoot. And there's no penalty like last edition. You don't get -1 to hit. So let's say you want to get within 12 inches out of, I don't know, a Land Raider, and then you get +1 to your strength on multiple different shooting things. That's pretty good. Like Flamers are pretty good within 12, but this doesn't exclusively mean Flamers. This does lean towards it. There's a lot of other weapons like, I don't know, plasma, what are they called? Plasma incinerators on like Hellblasters.
Yes.
On the Inceptors that drop 3 inches away. This is a very cool rule, and it'll apply to a lot of things. Even like, again, Dreadnoughts, man. Like you get those las cannons potentially up to strength 13 if you're coming from strat reserve close to a 9 or something, and you're wounding a +1 to wound essentially. Very cool rule. Very, very thematic, very interesting for the Salamander style of play. And we'll dive into it, but there's a lot of cool combinations of the flame stuff as well.
Agreed. All right, first up is of the enhancements, Champion of Humanity, Tacticus model only. So that just means regular or power armor, right? Primaris power armor.
I believe the split between Primaris and Firstborn is pretty much gone.
It's pretty much gone. That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So I don't know if this applies to Gravis as well. I believe it does, but yeah.
While the bearer is leading a unit, models in that unit can ignore any roll modifiers to their characteristics and or to any roll tests that may be made for them. So that 1 CP strat that we had that only worked in the previous one, if you'd taken damage, you just give it to a model who gives it to a unit, and they have it all game. Very good. Will cost you, 20 points, I think? 10 points?
10 points? Man, this is auto take, honestly.
The auto, yeah.
Yeah, like this is, for those who aren't aware of this, like we discussed what this does earlier, but this in like a lot of mirrors, especially with damage reduction, it's a massive thing. Or like -1 to wound is very common. This is amazing. Like this awesome upgrade. Always take it, especially if your meta is full of like, what do you like orcs as well with a -1 to wound strat everywhere, stuff like that. There's heaps of different armies with that. Very good.
All right, which one's next?
War Tempered Artifice. Leaning back into that Salamander's Artifice armor stuff, Adeptus Astartes infantry model only. Add 3 to the strength characteristics of the bearer's melee weapon. Yeah, right. Okay.
It will run you 25 points for some reason.
Oh, that's a bit steep for +3 strength.
Yeah, no, never heard of you.
Like, yeah, like you can get a power fist up there on a captain when you go Super Saiyan, but like, it's okay, but not for 25 points.
Nah. Forges in Battle is the next one. While the bearer is leading a unit, once per turn after making a hit roll or a saving throw for a model, you can change the result to a 6. I quite like that.
How much is that one, mate?
Forged in Battle, 15.
Also, very good quality for its points.
Points are all over the place. That's a very good rate for its points. Very good.
Yeah, you should probably be switching this with the War Tempered Artifice or the first one, right? Like, yeah. Okay. Changing a 6 roll always after a dice roll, right? Like that's very good, especially for save throw or hit roll. It's essentially a CP where you need it on that unit. So, like for that re-roll, so pretty solid.
Yeah, nice. Give us the last.
Adamantine Mantle. Now, that is a name we've heard before.
Absolutely.
Adeptus is Astartes models only. Each time an attack is allocated to the bearer, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic. If the attack was made with a melter or torrent weapon, change the damage characteristic to 1 instead.
Ooh.
Oh, Avatar of Cain, are you jealous?
Ooh. Jelly. You're overwatching me with 10 D-Scythe Wraithguard. They're all 1 damage. You're still probably dead. That's all 1 damage.
Probably, but
you're still probably dead. But it's going to be funny for like that half a minute. You're going to feel like a king.
Yeah, look, it's cool. It's -1 damage is always useful. But it's on an infantry. Sorry, it's not infantry. It's Adeptus Astartes model, but you can only put it on characters, right? I don't think there's any characters dreads in anymore or something like that. But it would be useful in that case. How much is that one, mate?
Apologize, I should have been looking already. 20.
Okay, it's okay.
It's reasonable.
It's reasonable. It's probably the 3rd best in the detachment, but it's fine. So
I'm putting it on a Talon Master, straight up.
True. Dark Angels benefit from that pretty heavily.
Yeah, straight up. Might make a Talon Master back into my list.
Very nice.
We will see. Armor of Contempt is the first of the stratagems, so never freaking mind. Crucible of Battle is the next one, which is a battle tactic. It is 1 CP. It's in your shooting phase or the fight phase. 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets the closest and eligible target within 6, +1 to wound. So you have to be very close, but Inceptors just deep strike into that range, and you get +1 to wound for 1 CP. Very good going rate.
That's pretty solid. If you're sneaking in with Inceptors, if you're jumping out of Land Raider after it moves, or Impulses after it moves, and that's kind of hinting to where this detachment's going. It's very good for just +1 to wound. Always a great modifier, especially with the wound rerolls removed.
Well, it is just +1 to wound in the fight phase as well. It is just Lance in the fight phase. So it's a shooting phase or the fight phase.
Yeah.
You're always going to be within 6 in the fight phase if you get into activate. So it's just +1 to wound.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah. All right, next up.
Rapid Embarkation. So back into the transport type of thing, and this is a strategic ploy stratagem. It is 1 CP. End of the fight phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes transport unit from your army that has no models embarked within it, and 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry unit that is wholly within 6 of that transport. Your infantry unit can re-embark in the transport. You cannot target an infantry unit that is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units that can normally be embarked within this transport or disembark from transport this turn. So just to clarify on the restrictions there, essentially, if you're in engagement range, you cannot do it. And if you've already disembarked from a transport, you can't get back in one. I believe that's right, Adam?
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe that's
this stratagem. Yeah. This stratagem is awesome, man. It is really cool. It allows you to funnel, get essentially, if you have a unit in a Land Raider with, I don't know, flame weapons that gets out, you get another unit that gets to jump back in for the next turn, essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
Or in their turn, you get to go back in too.
Exactly right. It's just in their turn, you can get out, get in, whatever. Unless you got exploded from a transport and you disembarked within 6 of another transport, you can't get into a transport. I guess it's the only thing that can stop you in their turn from using this.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you'd have to have a champion and a champion. It's a whole thing. Anyway, but it's still an awesome freaking strat.
As well isn't too bad. It just means you have the ability to get out. Like if you have infantry unit that walk through wall, shoots, and there's a transport within 6 of them, they can get back into that in your own turn as well as a defensive thing.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. You can the thing is, you can almost use it to get more movement, right? Because you only have to be within 6 of the other transport. So you walk out from a wall, you shoot and charge, kill a unit, and then you're within 6. You wouldn't be able to do any further move to get you another 6 inches, and then 1 CP. You've just essentially moved another 6 inches with your whole unit.
It sounds very Harlequin to me, mate.
It does. It's really good, though. It's so good.
That's very good.
All right. Immolation Protocols. That sounds spice. It is a battle tactic as well, but it is 2 CP. It's in your shooting phase. 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry unit. Sorry, 1 Adeptus Astartes unit, not infantry, from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. So any Astartes unit, I've really confused everybody. Until the end of the phase, torrent weapons equipped by models in a unit have the devastating wounds.
Whoa.
Boy, oh boy.
You want damage? You want flamer damage? I know where to get it. It's called Aggressors or Inferno Squad, right?
Is this so good that we put a Gravis captain in with the flame aggressors instead of the... Well, you would actually, wouldn't you? Because you don't hit, so the buy low just doesn't do anything. So 100%, it's 6 Flamestorm aggressors in a Redeemer with a Gravis Captain. And, he can have +3 strength, though, mate. It's
Oh, dude. Or you could ignore modifiers if they're like,
or you can ignore all modifiers.
Yeah, I wonder what's better.
Yeah.
But regardless, man, this stratagem is amazing. I think an aggressive brick with twin linked, because they have twin linked on the Flamers, does about 7 to 8 mortal wounds off this. I actually like this on the Infernus squad, and especially when you take the Salamanders directly, and their special characters give you reroll wounds on a unit. So the Infernus squad is 10d6 versus being, I believe it's 66 plus 1 would be with the aggressors. You get a lot more damage out of it. I will say, being that this is on Torrent and Flamer, this is a little bit of a one and done. It's not as maneuverable as the current Bolted Discipline brick because you can't do it from 18. So you are committing here. But if you have to break someone's back, this is a good way to do it. It's a good bit of damage, and it's not overcosted for 2 CP, especially with a captain. It's a good combo.
Yeah, I think it's a great combo. And this is what I was saying about people who want to do the thing that they're currently doing now in a new detachment. Essentially, if you can just change the guns on your aggressors, put in a captain instead of the biologists, straight back to work with the same combo. Almost entirely. Onslaught of Fire is another battle tactic. There's 1 CP, happens in your shooting phase. Oh, sorry, did I just read that previous one? I did. This is yours.
That's right. Onslaught of Fire, 1 CP, battle tactic stratagem. I've just repeated what Adam said. When you're shooting phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that disembarks from a transport this turn has not been selected to shoot. Until the start of the phase, each time that model in your unit makes a ranged attack that targets the closest eligible unit within 12, add 1 to the hit roll. If 1 or more enemy models are destroyed as a result of those attacks, select one of those destroyed models units, and they must take a battle shock test. 1 CP for +1 to hit within 12, and if you kill one, they have to take a battle shock test. 1 CP, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all. That second part of that strat is written so terrible.
Yeah,
but everything else
I kind of had to paraphrase.
You did. Essentially, if you kill a dude, they got to take a battle shock. It's whatever of 1 unit that you target.
It's good. It helps, but flame again doesn't really lean to flame weapons because they don't hit. Obviously, being torrent. But there's other close range weapons that are good. Like again, Hellblasters would like that for the +1 to hit. But again, you got to be in their grill. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Last one, Burning Vengeance is a battle tactic. Despite being red, frustrating. 1 CP. Use your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has resolved its attacks. 1 transport unit from your army that was selected as a target at 1 or more of those units' attacks. 1 unit embarked within that transport can disembark as if it was your movement phase and can then shoot as if it was your shooting phase, but must only target that enemy unit when doing so. It can only do so if that enemy unit is an eligible target. So this is a lot of T's and C's and will be awesome if you can pull it off.
Yeah, this itself is an amazing stratagem, especially for the fact that it's a battle tactic. Granted, I don't think you can do it for free because you're not on the battlefield if you have a unit in the transport that gets out. Yeah. However, this combined with rapid embargation, it's clearly pointing this detachment in a specific way. Essentially, rapid embargation, as we said, allows you to get into a transport after you've shot, fought, and get back in as long as you're in engagement range and didn't get out of one. This allows you to get out in their turn. So you can link these together to do some awesome movement jank. Because if you get out in their turn, you're not in a transport, right? So you can use rapid embargation in your turn to get back in the transport after doing and get more movement. So This is really, really cool.
I think this is really good. And have you noticed that everyone so far has had some shoot back effect?
They have every detachment. Yeah,
has all had some shoot back. I think this is fundamentally very good. But I mean, it's only good if you're building into what this list is or what this detachment's already telling you to do.
Yeah.
This is the best detachment we've reviewed so far. It is possibly the one with the biggest, I guess, damage ceiling of the ones we're going to talk about, I believe. And it has a very specific set of jank. It's all to do with vehicles and transports.
Yeah, look, you essentially, like, if you're running aggressors, you need to, like, you're running 2 bricks probably, you take a Land Raider. Otherwise, you're probably running not Redemptors, repulsors, like the transport repulsors with like Inferno squads and stuff like that. It gets a bit janky because you still can't put Primaris Marines in Rhinos and like the Tactical Marines in Impulsors and whatnot. So you got to muck around with it there. But you'll probably have 2 to 3 bricks that can play with these transports that are mixed shooting combat and generally with flame weapons as well. And to be honest, man, like having some Vanguard vets or Assault intercessors with jump packs now. It isn't bad for this. Like, it allows you to get up there and get in the grill. They have assault, so they can still shoot their pistols and whatnot. So like it's still like it's viable. But it's definitely more leading into the close quarters CQC shooting with a little bit of combat attached on with a +1 to wound roll on the closest.
Well, this is incentivizing the grind, the mid-board grind. And I think that is a place where a huge amount of armies and matchups can be won. And the fact is, you were just talking about melee units. There is just a 1 CP strat for +1 to wound in assault. It's just there. And so there is something there for if you want to get a little more aggressive, especially when you got aggressors, they're getting out of a transport. Shoot, kill something, charge, kill something else, 1 CP, kill the thing or better. It sounds pretty fine. And so far, I think this has not the best enhancements, but the best for the points enhancements.
I agree. Look, you don't need it. I'd love advance and charge in this, but to get that extra bit of movement again. But you'd be greedy, right? Because if you're playing with aggressors and transports, and you've got like rapid investigation, burning vengeance, crucible battle, and immolation protocols, man, like you really don't need any extra movement because these aggressors that normally move 5 are moving so much further by getting in and out of these transports anyway. So,
well, when I'm reviewing a detachment, I'm usually talking about how many of the enhancements are takeable in a top-level list. The fact is, I think there are 2, if not 3 of these that are very takeable. Most likely 2, the first 2, Champion Humanity, War Tempered Artifice. And then 5 out of 6 of the strats are bangers. 5 out of 6. They're all good. Usually it's 50-50. Usually it's thirds. It's 1/3 forgettable, 1/3 situational, 1/3 really good. This is 5 very, very every turn. If you can slap them down, going to be good.
Totally agree. And I think this will require a bit of finesse to apply because you can't just ram into someone's face. It's not Unga Bunga. It's not 30 custodes. But it has the ability to eloquently apply damage if you get your movement and your transport play correctly done.
Agreed. We have probably... that's probably it for today. That's probably where we're going to leave it. We're going to save the Stormlance, Vanguard, and First Company Task Force, in addition to chit-chatting about the data sheets, for next week's episode. Not tomorrow. I may record it tomorrow, but it's going to be for next week's episode. But I just wanted to thank you very much for coming on, mate. And I know you have read all 6, and we will talk about all 6 from a top down for a little bit now. As it sits right now, I do think the Firestorm Assault Force might be the best thing that I can do with my current 2,000-point Gladius lists. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, look, I think Firestorm is good. I like it a lot. I think it has a lot of play. I think you have to build into it, though, and currently people are taking maybe 1 or 2 transports. You kind of have to build back into more of them.
There's quite a few points that have been disrupted in that list. I mean, naturally, the Desolators are absolutely gone. Thunderfires are gone. Scout snipers are gone as well. So there could easily be 300-ish odd points vacant in that list that can be maneuvered around. Obviously, you swap out your Apothecary Biologist for a Gravis Captain. That's a bit of points there. But apart from that, most of the list can stay exactly the same.
Pretty similar. I think you probably want a second aggressor brick if you're going to fight Assault Firestorm.
I agree.
Man, I really like Ironstorm Spearhead. I know it's probably not as competitive as Firestorm Assault because walking through walls is obviously very good. But even a vehicle castle, like in teams, or if you're playing on light boards, like more on the frontline gaming type of stuff, it's still going to be a very viable detachment too. I think the ones we've read, they seem to have a theme. Those themes seem to fit. And so far, 2 out of 3 have hit the mark, in my opinion. Yes, the damage is down, but their capabilities have been widened. And people just need to remember that and realize that it allows to express skill, which is really cool.
Correct. Well, so the thing that I think we've talked about this, that like I think the Ironstorm Spearhead, I think Dark Angels do it better than Iron Hands do. Like straight up.
Yep.
And the same thing can be said for Dark Angels doing the Stormlands better than White Scars can do, and Space Wolves possibly doing it better than the Dark Angels can do. It just and Blood Angels, all getting huge amounts of value. Vanguard Spearhead,
the Vanguard Spearhead's awesome. Yeah,
it's
infiltrating.
So good. Yeah,
I like to see Black Templars in some of these. Even like the Ironstorm with the reroll, pretty good on free melter weapons on your chassis for transports with ETs. So there's a few options. The non-codex definitely have a lot more viability than the standard codex, but I'm sure you'll get into that next week with your non-codex specialists.
Well, yes, but also I wanted to say that I wish there was another stratagem in these, or there was another enhancement, or there was another line of text for the detachment rules to make them incentivized over their counterparts. The Ironstorm Spearhead, straight up. I take Iron Hands, and cool. I get what's the big Chodius boy? Chungus. What's Big Chungus' name?
Oh, dude,
The special character.
Ironfather Feroz.
I can get Feroz in there, who gets some level of goodness to add it into this, or I could have Samael, Talon Masters, Dark Shrouds for my 3 Redemptors and 3 Ballistas Dreads that now get Stealth and Shrouded. -1 to hit and +1 save. You know,
the Vanguard buff.
just exactly. Put the Vanguard buff in the Ironstorm Spearhead. Like, it just makes it better than anything Iron Hands can do, I think, right now. But I wish there was another strat. I wish there was an Iron Hand strat in the Ironstorm Spearhead. I wish there was an Imperial Fist strat. Like, if you are Imperial Fists, maybe you get to move at half speed whilst getting the entire anvil
standstill.
But getting the standstill. Remain. You can stand still if you move at half speed, like, or at -2 even. Or something. I wish there was a rider, because it's so obvious that what they're built for is not what they're best used for.
Yeah. Look, man, all we can hope for is that as the other codexes roll out, which we'll see with Dark Angels still soon, I imagine that Dark Angels may actually lose access to these, and these attachments might build into pure Codex compliant Marines, and the Dark Angels will have a set of 6, or Blood Angels, they'll have 6 detachments or 5 detachments in their own book that they get to choose from. That will bring some unique flavor there, and hopefully breathe some life at that point into core Marines directly.
I 100% want that to be the case. Like, desperately want that to be the case. Because right now everyone's just going to have their beautifully painted salamanders. Actually, sorry, the Firestorm is probably the only one that salamanders might be better than everybody else. Because legitimately, Vulcan pointing at somebody, giving full rerolls to wound is legitimately very powerful.
Yeah, and you get combat rerolls from the other characters as well, leading a unit of, I don't know, like Blade Guard or aggressors jumping out of transport. So yeah, pretty good.
All right. On that note, we will wrap it up. Thank you very much, mate. If you had to, because you have read the entire document so far, if you were to rate the rules from this book out of 10 for how enjoyable, good, and well structured they are for Space Marine players, what would you give it out of 10?
As one score, I think it's hard to judge as one score. I think thematically it's good. I think that the power is slightly down. So it's hard to judge, being one of the early codexes. I'd have to probably put it like a 7 to an 8. Like, it's good. It's not perfect. The theme's there. But the power has dropped off. And as we've discussed, like, the design of non-Codex Astartes being better is a bit disappointing. I'd hope that core Marines that got a bit more love here in terms of not there, like, I guess giving them more rules, but it's still good. It's a good book to start off, and I hope the edition leans on this, and we get to see these detachments build out and maintain their longevity, and don't drop off over the next couple of months to a year.
Fundamentally, I like the power level drop off as long as it's consistent with the other codexes coming down the pipe, which is kind of what we saw. I want with Tyranids as well. The power stayed the same or got a little bit worse. I want that to be, but the diversity and a number of viable units exploded. And I want that to be the case for this entire edition. If I had the choice, I give this more of a 6 to a 7.
Okay.
I do like some of the streamlining effects that have happened. I do like some of the removal of data sheets, although my heart absolutely hurts for the sheer amount of bikes that I have that I cannot use. It's my soul. I almost wish they didn't half measure it and they just got rid of every kit that they were going to get rid of, because we know next edition's probably going to be a couple more. Next edition's probably going to be a couple more. Just kind of rip off the Band-Aid already.
Yeah.
Stop playing with me, G-Dub. I've still got Predators and things. You're giving me hope. But yeah, on the whole, I think this is a pretty good 6 or a 7 out of 10. But I do not think Space Marines are going to move much in the tier list. They're going to sit as a mid B to mid A tier codex.
I actually think, Ben, this puts them slightly down, because yes, they have game tools, but Oath is slightly worse. And one of the biggest things, and you see them in nearly every list. Like, I was looking at the LGT list from this weekend with Olivier, the French captain, in top 8, and the Darkness Slayer. Very cool list. I actually got to play him at WTC, and it was very similar list, very awesome to play him. Very cool. But the biggest thing here is they all have scouts, which are that you can't be targeted outside 12. And losing that, in my opinion, that cheap unit that can screen or hold objectives against artillery, is a little bit of a problem. and we'll have to find something. Marine players are going to have to kind of skew and find something to fill that role. And to be honest, like some of these detachments don't like lean away from that, but you still need an objective holder at the back. And hopefully there's something there, like, you know, Libby's can do it, Phobos Libby's can do it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, we'll hopefully work it out.
We will work it out. On that note, we will sign out, mate. We're going to go over and answer your patron questions over on the part 2. Hopefully you will join us there if you have not already. Art of War Down Under over on Patreon. See you there. Join that Discord. Talk some smack. Tell us how your Space Marine adventures have been going and your 10th edition adventures as well. And yeah, we'll see you there. Big Willy M's in there, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, I am. It's a good Discord, mate.
It's all right. It's okay. I do what I can. I juggle a lot. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on with us, mate. Hopefully the audio quality has been better for those at home. And yeah, enjoy your first half of the Space Marines review. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.